All right, guys, it's Jahlon, and I want to give a big congratulations to Intrepid Studios. They have made it through their month-long testing for Ashes of Creation. Now they get to sit back, relax, and start to go through some of the feedback we have. I've already started giving feedback. I did one video on timelines, deadlines, and why Intrepid should stop giving us those. I also did one where I call for abandoning hybrid combat and just going with tab enhanced. So those are in the description below. But today I want to focus on something a little different, and it sort of stems from an interview Steven did with the MMORPG subreddit moderator. And in that, Steven says,
our game's not going to be for everybody. And that's okay. It doesn't have to be.
And that's a great statement. I really mean that. Knowing that the developer has a destination, a vision of where they want to get to, that's great. Knowing that they're not going to try to cater to everyone means that they're not going to make the same mistake WildStar made, and while trying to please everyone, they end up pleasing no one. The problem is, Steven's comment wasn't a call to arms for the community, and a lot of people in the community have started taking this statement of Ashes won't be for everyone, and that's okay, to bludgeon people with negative feedback or questions or comments or concerns. A lot of people are using this comment like, either accept Ashes for how it is or get out. The problem is, there's a but here. Ashes needs to be for enough people to run the studio. As you guys know, over there in the corner, I broke down the cost of running a studio to the best of my abilities, and I do acknowledge some of the numbers might be high, but then there's a lot of things I didn't include. So it's for the big picture. So my question then becomes, if Ashes won't be for everyone and that's okay, who is the Ashes of Creation target audience? Now, I know what you're going to say is you're going to say MMORPG players. And if at any point during this video I say something you don't agree with, hit pause, leave me a comment, let's talk about it. With that said, my response to MMORPG players is, which ones? Because if we look at the MMORPG community and all of the potential players, this isn't the target audience, because we know there's going to be people who don't play Ashes based on just the combat system. There are players who want action combat only. They're going to gravitate towards New World. There are people who will not play tab target games. What about people that don't like the PvP system? There are people who don't want to play a game with non-consensual PvP. They don't want to play an opt-in game. They want an opt-out option like New World. There are people who won't play Ashes because there's XP loss on death and items lost on death. And I know what you're going to say, Ashes won't be for everyone and they can find another game. Well, what about the people who aren't going to play Ashes of Creation because there's a monetization schedule they don't like? Some people won't play a monthly sub. Some people won't play a game with a cash shop. Even though the cash shop is only cosmetics, there are people who are afraid this is going to be BDO where you have to buy cosmetics to look good. There are people who won't play Ashes until they're 100% certain there won't be any pay to win. And there are some people who are afraid monster coins are pay to win, and we're still waiting on an answer for that. What about the PvE crowd that won't play the game because this isn't a theme park dungeon runner? There aren't instance dungeons. There's some, but they're not important. Not as important as others. The fact that there's no party finder and no matchmaker turns people off. Now, Intrepid may give us all the tools they want, but if those tools aren't available, those players aren't going to come play. What about the people who won't play Ashes because of the art style? I know it sounds silly, but that's their hill that they want to die on. So really, when you start making all these chops, you end up with a situation where here's your target audience, and here's everybody else. But we didn't talk about one group that I want to dial into, and what about the people who don't really like mandatory forced group content? I'm going to be talking about this from my experiences in Alpha 1, and I do know Alpha 1 was not a content test. However, several design philosophies were demonstrated, and one of those design philosophies was forced group content. In a normal theme park, quest runner game, you have 4 quests, they're in a chain, you can do all 4 parts by yourself. Ashes has adopted the philosophy where you can do the first 3 quests, and then on the 4th one, you are going to need help. And without that help, you've reached a stuck point. This is, as you saw at the beginning, this is me approaching one of the mandatory group parts. This is the Goblin Fort out in the east side of the map. And I'm a level 11, and I'm approaching what is a level 9 quest. And as you can see out front, there is those deep red goblins. As you see on my minimap in the upper right-hand corner, that is a high density amount of mobs I'm going to have to cut through. And there's just no way I can do this by myself. Now, could I call for help? Sure. Could I ask in chat for help? Absolutely. Is that going to be what modern MMO players do? I don't think so. I think we have a problem where without a group, that's it. You've reached a stuck point. And now I know there are some people who are going to say, that's what we want. We want mandatory group content. And I don't disagree. I'm a longtime Final Fantasy player. I played Final Fantasy 11. I played Final Fantasy 14. Same company. Look at Final Fantasy 11. Rise of Zillert, Chains of Promethea, outstanding expansion packs. But without a party, you couldn't do anything in those games. You literally sat around in Juno waiting to get invited to a party. Square Enix learned that you can still do forced group content, you just have to do it a different way. And one of those ways is that you have to look at what Intrepid wants to do in their present state. They want to have dungeons, 80% of them open world with the PvP flagging system in place, 20% instanced. They're going to have world bosses, they're going to have quests. And of course, they're going to have a whole litany of other content, but I just want to focus on really these 3 parts. So with just these 3 parts, who is the Ashes of Creation target audience? And when we drop back in here and we look, we have to make sure we're targeting enough people. So in the present state, I think there's some problems. I think that maybe we should move to 20% open world dungeons, 80% instanced. I think world bosses and in our new state, open world dungeons should all be PvP zones. And I think quests that require a group should always be behind a dungeon. And here's why. For our PvE players, when you only have 20% instanced dungeons and you have quests that are forced grouping, you're not really catering to the casual PvE crowd. And I know what you're going to say, but we don't need them. And I'm going to challenge you with who keeps the lights on in a game that doesn't have wailing pay-to-win shops. Casuals keep the lights on. So if you don't appeal to enough of them, I don't think you have enough of a core audience for your game. So what if we change that and in our ideal state, we made it 20% open world dungeons with PvP flagging in those, 80% instanced, and we only put the quests behind dungeons. Now you've created a dungeon running scenario and you sort of visually indicate to people when they need to group up. Now people aren't going to be roaming around the open world trying to figure out why they can't do this goblin thing. And now is the time in development for them to make those changes. Now I know the PvP players are going to say, but you took 60% of our dungeons away from us. Well, remember, in the current state, those dungeons require you to flag up. What if we change that to 20% open world dungeons, but those dungeons were PvP zones? And what if we made all the world bosses PvP zones? Now you don't have to worry about flagging. People that don't want to get killed, stay away from that content. People who don't want to get killed have other content to do. People who do want to fight, come to that content. Now you have content to do and PvP to be had. Of course, you know, this is our target audience. And I think maybe Intrepid making a few changes is going to make it so their target audience gets bigger. It's also completely possible that my analysis is wrong and the target audience is actually a lot smaller than I'm giving them credit for. Maybe they're making Ashes of Creation too niche. So my question to everybody, and leave it in the comments below, who is the Ashes of Creation target audience? What are the characteristics of a player that you think will want to come to this MMORPG? And with that said, guys, that is it for this video. I'm going to get out of here. I got to put this in a post. If you need me, get me on my social media. It's all in the description. Hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, thumbs up the video, like, comment, share, do all those things. I'll see you next time.
I say, Sprocket, we've reached the end of another video. Time to thank the sponsors. Yes, that will do, that will do. Shall we pop off for a spot of tea?